The pregnancy test trembled in Olivia Mitchell's hands, two pink lines staring back at her like a life sentence. 3 months ago, she'd shared one reckless night with Ethan Parker, a single father who worked under her at Reynolds Architecture. Now, as the firm's notoriously demanding CEO, she had to tell him the truth before rumors spread through the office. But how could she admit that beneath her icy exterior, she'd been falling for him since the day he was hired? If you're enjoying this emotional journey already, please hit that like button and subscribe to catch all our stories that explore the complicated, messy, beautiful reality of unexpected love and second chances. Olivia Mitchell stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of her corner office, watching Seattle's skyline disappear behind sheets of autumn rain. At 36, she had everything she'd ever worked for. She was the youngest CEO in Reynolds Architecture's 70-year history, with a reputation for brilliance that was matched only by her ruthlessness. The industry nicknamed her the Ice Queen, and she'd worn the title like armor. Until 3 months ago, the memory of that night still burned through her defenses. The annual company retreat at Lake Chelan. Too much wine. A chance encounter with Ethan on the dock after everyone else had gone to bed. The surprising vulnerability in his eyes when he talked about raising his daughter alone after his wife's death. The way the moonlight had softened his features, making him look younger than his 34 years one night. One mistake, except it hadn't felt like a mistake until the following morning, when professional reality came crashing back. She'd slipped from his cabin before dawn, and they'd maintained a careful, professional distance ever since. He never mentioned it. Neither did she. Now, her hand drifted unconsciously to her still flat stomach. The pregnancy test that morning, her third in a week, had confirmed what her body had been trying to tell her. Morning sickness. Exhaustion. Sensitivity to smells that had never bothered her before. A knock at her door jolted her back to the present. "Come in," she called, straightening her charcoal pencil skirt and smoothing her silk blouse. Ethan Parker entered, a portfolio tucked under his arm. Even after 3 years at the firm, he still carried himself with the quiet confidence that had first caught her attention during his interview. His dark hair was slightly damp from the rain, and his blue eyes held that focused intensity that made him one of her most valuable project managers. "The Westlake Tower revisions," he said, placing the portfolio on her desk. "I incorporated the sustainability elements you suggested." "Thank you." She kept her voice neutral, professional. "How's Emma doing with the new school year?" A smile softened his features at the mention of his 8-year-old daughter. "She's thriving. Her teacher says she has a natural talent for math and science. Like her father." The words slipped out before Olivia could stop them. Something flickered in his eyes, surprise, perhaps, at the personal comment. "I appreciate that." An awkward silence stretched between them, filled with unspoken words and the weight of their shared secret. Or rather, secrets. He didn't know about the new life growing inside her. She didn't know how to tell him. "Is there anything else you need?" he asked, his hand already on the doorknob. Olivia opened her mouth, then closed it. "No. That's all for now." After he left, she sank into her chair, pressing her palms against her eyes. She had built her career by being decisive, by never hesitating. Yet here she was, paralyzed by fear, not of professional failure, but of something far more terrifying, emotional vulnerability. Her assistant's voice came through the intercom. "Ms. Mitchell, your 2 o'clock is here." Olivia straightened her spine, pushed her personal crisis aside, and did what she'd always done best. She buried herself in work. Ethan Parker's apartment was organized chaos. Lego pieces scattered across the coffee table, half-finished science projects on the dining table, and a trail of socks leading to his daughter's bedroom. After putting Emma to bed with 2 bedtime stories and a promise that yes, they could go to the Science Museum this weekend, he collapsed onto the couch with a glass of whiskey. 3 months. It had been 3 months since that night with Olivia, and he still couldn't get it out of his mind. The way her professional facade had crumbled, revealing a woman with doubts and dreams and a laugh that transformed her entire face. The way she'd looked at him like he was more than just an employee, more than just a widowed father struggling to balance his career with raising his daughter. For one night, they'd been equals. Just two people connecting in a way that had felt surprisingly right. Then morning came, and she was gone. Back to being Ms. Mitchell, the demanding boss who expected perfection and accepted nothing less. He'd respected her unspoken decision to pretend it never happened. What choice did he have? She was his boss. He needed this job. Emma needed stability, but lately, something had changed. Olivia looked tired. Distracted. He'd caught her staring at him during meetings, only to quickly look away when their eyes met. Today, she'd asked about Emma, something she rarely did, despite knowing he was a single father. His phone buzzed with a text from his sister. "How's my favorite niece? Still coming for dinner Sunday?" He typed back a quick confirmation, grateful for his sister's support. After Allison's death from cancer 4 years ago, Megan had been his rock, helping with Emma while he pieced his life back together. She'd encouraged him to apply for the position at Reynolds Architecture when he was still drowning in grief, convinced that his talent was being wasted at his previous firm. And she'd been right. Despite Olivia's demanding nature, working at Reynolds had revitalized his passion for architecture. He'd grown more in 3 years under her leadership than in all his previous positions combined. His phone buzzed again. "And how's the Ice Queen treating you?" Ethan stared at the message, unsure how to respond. How could he explain that beneath Olivia's cold exterior was a woman of extraordinary depth? That he'd seen glimpses of vulnerability that haunted him? That sometimes, when she thought no one was looking, sadness shadowed her eyes in a way that made him want to reach out? "Same as always," he replied instead. Setting his phone aside, he picked up the framed photo of Allison holding newborn Emma. "What would you think of all this?" he whispered to his late wife's smiling face. Sometimes he imagined he could hear her answer, practical and loving as she'd always been. Tonight, he heard nothing but the ticking of the clock and the distant sound of Emma's sleep music drifting from her bedroom. The following week brought a crisis at work. Their biggest client, Meridian Development, was threatening to pull out of a $50 million project over concerns about the timeline. Olivia called an emergency meeting, gathering her top team in the conference room. "We need solutions, not excuses," she said, pacing the length of the polished table. "Meridian is getting nervous about the permit delays, and I need something concrete to reassure them." Her team watched her warily. They'd seen her like this before, focused, demanding, relentless in her pursuit of excellence. But today there was something different in her intensity. A brittleness that hadn't been there before. "What if we phase the project differently?" Ethan suggested, spreading out the blueprints. "We could begin construction on the north section while the permits for the south are still processing. It would show progress without compromising the design integrity." Olivia stopped pacing and studied his proposal. "That could work, but we'd need to reconfigure the foundation plans." "I can have revised plans by tomorrow morning," he said. Their eyes met across the table, and for a moment, the room seemed to fade away. Then a wave of nausea hit her without warning. Olivia paled, gripping the edge of the table. "Ms. Mitchell?" her assistant asked, concerned. "Are you all right?" "Fine," she said sharply. "Just, continue the meeting. I need some air." She strode from the room, maintaining her composure until she reached the women's restroom. Locking herself in a stall, she retched violently, her body betraying her at the worst possible moment. When she emerged to rinse her mouth and splash cold water on her face, she found Ethan's assistant, Diane, watching her with knowing eyes. "Ginger tea helps," Diane said quietly. "And saltines. Kept them in my desk drawer through all 3 of my pregnancies." Olivia froze, meeting the older woman's gaze in the mirror. "I don't know what you're talking about." Diane's expression remained kind but knowing. "Of course not. But if you did need ginger tea, I'd be happy to bring you some. No questions asked." After a moment of tense silence, Olivia nodded once.